Boat refrigerators are tiny compared to what you had ashore, and you're likely to go longer between trips to the store. Reducing what you store in the fridge is key, but how do you do it and still have good meals? Hi, I'm Carolyn Sherlock. With 12 years of cruising and over 40 years of adventurous camping, I've learned a bit about what foods don't have to be refrigerated, and I'll share some of my tips today on the Boat Galley Podcast, the place for how-tos about the cruising lifestyle. This episode of the Boat Galley Podcast is sponsored by Marmara Imports. Their hand-loomed, fair trade, organic cotton Turkish towels are highly absorbent, dry quickly, fold flat, and are soft and luxurious, perfect for life aboard. Use coupon code PODCAST10, that's PODCAST10, for 10% off any order of $40 or more. Marmara Imports, more than just a towel. So let's talk about reducing what you store in the refrigerator or icebox. Most boat refrigerators are far smaller than those in houses or apartments. Iceboxes are usually even smaller. And when you combine that with less frequent grocery shopping, something has to give. For me, the answer was twofold. I don't refrigerate items that don't have to be, and I use non-refrigerated substitutes for some items, so that I needed to carry less things in the refrigerator. I'll start by saying that while I enjoy visiting towns and villages as we cruise, I really prefer to do a big stock up every 2 to 4 weeks, staying in secluded anchorages in between. This meant I need to make the most of the refrigerator space that I have. Start with not refrigerating most condiments. Most condiments just plain and simply don't need to be refrigerated. Ashore, most Americans refrigerate open containers of ketchup, mustard, jellies, and jams. Some even keep steak sauce, hot sauce, soy sauce, and Worcestershire in the refrigerator. I kept all of them just in a cupboard and have never had a problem with any getting molding in the 3 to 6 months it took us to use a container. For things that we don't use a lot of, I simply buy smaller containers so that we'd use them up before they got rock hard. I don't refrigerate mayonnaise either. I follow the clean spoon rule, or, better yet, buy squeeze bottles. How about eggs? Eggs don't have to be refrigerated. It used to be thought that eggs needed to be refrigerated if they had ever been refrigerated, but cruisers are discovering this is simply not true. If you turn the eggs every few days so that inside membrane stays moist, you can put eggs that have been refrigerated and keep them on the counter. If you have a compromised immune system, you may want to do this because the biggest risk is salmonella. However, I honestly don't know of anyone who has ever contracted it. The next item is using boxed milk. Boxed milk is just a cruising staple. The milk is ultra-pasteurized and vacuum-sealed in boxes, similar to juice boxes. Generally, they hold a quart or a liter. You can get whole milk, 2%, skim milk, even almond milk, soy milk, things like that. Some people say it tastes slightly different from the fresh products. We didn't think so. Boxed milk is sold everywhere in Mexico and Central America, and it's getting more popular in the U.S. In many countries, you can only buy boxed milk and powdered milk. There's almost no fresh milk available. I've kept boxed milk for up to 6 months. I think the official recommendation is more like 3 months. Be sure to shake it up before using it. The milk solids can settle a bit. Many of the boxes have a resealable pour spout, but whenever we were on the move or in a rolling anchorage, I'd transfer the milk into a bottle with a screw top, just to be sure. You can also buy light cream, which is media crema in Spanish-speaking countries, in cans or boxes. In the U.S., you'll usually find it in the Mexican foods aisle. An evaporated milk, which comes in cans, is not as thick as media crema, but it's also a good substitute for refrigerated half and half in recipes. Now then also, let's use oil instead of butter in a lot of things. In many recipes, you can use olive oil or canola oil instead of butter or margarine. And oil doesn't have to be refrigerated, whereas butter and margarine do. You can't use oil for everything, but I found I didn't need to carry nearly as much butter as I had anticipated. Now you can use canned meat for some meals. I know, most of us hear canned meat and think yuck. I used to. Then I learned a number of tips for making great meals from canned meat while we were on a camping trip in Africa. I used the canned meat for about half our dinners, which considerably lessened what needed to be kept in the freezer. Use canned fruits and veggies along with fresh. We love fresh produce, and a great deal can be stored without refrigeration. While some veggies last a surprisingly long time without refrigeration, others don't. So I take those in cans. I use a combination of fresh and canned so that we can go longer without reprovisioning. Often I make salads that are a combination, such as canned green beans with fresh tomatoes and onions and a vinaigrette dressing. We'd still feel that we were eating fresh veggies. You really can reduce what you store in the refrigerator and not feel deprived when it comes to mealtime. Thanks again to our sponsor, Marmara Imports. More than a towel. Use with imagination. Thanks for listening to the Boat Galley Podcast. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe and tell your friends about it. And a review is always appreciated.